The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zexthor of the Krillian Empire slammed his appendage against the obsidian table. His 3 eyes gleamed with barely contained fury as he addressed the assembled representatives of 200 civilizations. "The humans must be stopped," he declared, his translator rendering his words into thousands of languages simultaneously. "They expand too quickly, claim too many worlds. We must strike before they become unstoppable." Cora Mitchell sat motionless in the human delegation section, her expression carefully neutral. As Earth's youngest ambassador at 32 years old, she had learned to mask her emotions when dealing with species that viewed any display of feeling as weakness. Beside her, Adam Chen, the military liaison, leaned back in his chair with deceptive casualness. His dark eyes tracked every movement in the chamber. The Krillian ambassador continued his tirade, displaying holographic evidence of human settlements on disputed frontier worlds. "They are a plague, a cancer that must be excised before it spreads further." Murmurs of agreement rippled through certain sections of the assembly. The humans had indeed expanded rapidly in the 70 years since first contact, their adaptability and determination shocking to species that had evolved under more favorable conditions. "Ambassador Zexthor," Cora said, rising smoothly to her feet. "The worlds you reference were unclaimed by Galactic Council law. We followed proper protocols." "Protocols," Zexthor interrupted. "You speak of protocols while your kind breeds like vermin, filling worlds that should remain pristine." Adam's hand moved to his tablet, fingers dancing across the screen. A moment later, Cora's device chimed softly. She glanced down at his message. "They're planning something. Intelligence suggests military buildup on their borders." Cora's jaw tightened imperceptibly. She had hoped it wouldn't come to this. Perhaps, she said carefully, the ambassador would benefit from a history lesson. "Many species in this chamber have made the mistake of underestimating humanity. I strongly advise against repeating their errors." An elderly representative from the Thexian collective, a species that had been among the first to encounter humans, raised one of her 4 arms. "The human speaks wisdom," the Thexian said, her voice resonating with age and experience. "We learned this lesson at great cost." Zexthor's scales flushed crimson with anger. "Your species has grown soft, Thexian. The humans have made you weak with their trade agreements and cultural exchanges. The Krillian Empire does not fear them." 3 weeks later, the Krillian fleet struck. They chose a human colony on Kepler 442b, a farming world with minimal military presence. Orbital bombardment commenced without warning, turning agricultural centers into craters of molten glass. 10,000 colonists died in the first hour. The Krillians had calculated that such a decisive blow would force humanity to the negotiating table, demonstrate their vulnerability, and convince the Galactic Council to restrict human expansion. They could not have been more wrong. Cora stood in the emergency session of Earth's Security Council, her face pale but her voice steady as she delivered the casualty reports. Among the dead were her cousin and his 2 children. She allowed herself 30 seconds of grief before compartmentalizing the pain, locking it away in a place she would revisit later, when there was time. "Recommendation?" the Secretary General asked. Adam stepped forward, a datapad in his hand. His expression was carved from stone. Full military response. "We invoke Article 7 of the Human Charter." Every person in the room understood what that meant. Article 7 had never been invoked before. It was the article that made humanity's military doctrine terrifyingly clear. Any attack on human civilians will be met with overwhelming and disproportionate force. No mercy, no quarter. The Galactic Council will object, the Secretary General noted. "Let them," Cora replied quietly. "We filed our military doctrine with the Council upon joining." Every species was warned. The Krillians chose to ignore that warning. The vote was unanimous. 48 hours after the attack on Kepler 442b, the human response began. The Krillian Empire controlled 17 star systems. They had a standing military of 8 million soldiers, 4,000 warships and defense stations around every major world. They considered themselves the 3rd most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had never fought humans before. The first wave hit their outer colonies like a tsunami of steel and fire. Human ships, smaller and more maneuverable than Krillian dreadnoughts, operated in swarm tactics that overwhelmed defensive systems. Where Krillian doctrine emphasized powerful shields and heavy armor, human vessels prioritized speed and overwhelming firepower from multiple vectors, but It was humanity's ground forces that truly horrified the Krillians. Human soldiers fought with a ferocity that seemed impossible. They took wounds that would kill most species and continued fighting. They adapted to Krillian tactics within hours, learning from every engagement. When Krillian forces fortified positions, humans didn't assault them. They bypassed them, cut off supply lines, and waited for the defenders to starve. When Krillians tried to surrender individual garrisons, they learned another terrible truth. Humans did not accept surrenders. Not this time. Ambassador Zexthor himself pleaded before the Galactic Council for intervention. His proud bearing had crumbled, replaced by something approaching terror. "They are monsters," he cried. "They show no mercy. They have destroyed 6 of our worlds." Cora sat in the human delegation section, her face emotionless. She had not slept in 3 days. Intelligence reports crossed her desk hourly. Battle updates, casualty figures, requests for resources. The human military machine had awakened, and it was terrible to behold. Ambassador Mitchell, the council speaker, addressed her. "Surely humanity has made its point. Will you not accept the Krillian surrender?" Cora stood slowly. When she spoke, her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the vast chamber. "No, but the destruction, the loss of life." "My cousin was a farmer," Cora interrupted. "His name was David. He grew apples, an earth fruit. He was trying to cultivate them in Kepler 442b's soil. His daughter, my niece Emma, was 8 years old. She wanted to be a teacher. Her voice never rose, never wavered. That somehow made it worse. The Krillians did not ask for mercy when they turned farming communities into slag. They did not show compassion when they incinerated children in their schools. They chose this path. Now they will walk it to its end." "You cannot mean—" the speaker began. "Article 7 is clear," Adam said, rising beside Cora. "We informed the council of its terms. We warned every species that joined this assembly. An attack on human civilians triggers total war. The Krillian Empire will cease to exist. Their military will be dismantled. Their government will be dissolved. Their worlds will be occupied until we are satisfied they pose no further threat." "And when will that be?" a Thexian representative asked quietly. "When we decide," Cora replied. 3 months after the attack on Kepler 442b, the Krillian Empire surrendered unconditionally. Of their 17 systems, 12 had been occupied by human forces. Their military had been reduced to 20% of its original strength. Zexthor himself was in human custody, awaiting trial for war crimes. The Galactic Council convened to discuss the human victory and what it meant for the balance of power in known space. Many species were terrified. Humanity had revealed a capacity for organized violence that exceeded anything in the Council's databases. Cora addressed the assembly one final time before returning to Earth. She looked older now, worn by the weight of the war. But her voice was clear and strong. "Let this serve as the final warning," she said. "Humanity desires peace. We seek cooperation, trade, cultural exchange. We want to be good neighbors to all species, but we will not tolerate attacks on our people. We filed our military doctrine in good faith, giving every species fair warning of the consequences of aggression." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the chamber. Ambassador Zexthor declared that humans must be stopped before we became unstoppable. He was wrong on one fundamental point. We were always unstoppable. We simply chose not to demonstrate it until forced. Adam stood beside her, adding quietly, "Choose peace with humanity, because you will not survive our wrath." The message was received. In the decades that followed, no species ever attacked human civilians again.